Spring training going on at Port St. Lucie, but optimistic thoughts for the season that lie ahead in Queens. Breaking down the 2015 Mets with us here at 1045theteam.com is Jeff Paternostro of Amazin Avenue, a blog dedicated to the Mets, one of the SB Nation blogs. Find him on Twitter at Amazin Avenue. Jeff, thanks for being with us, and how are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Jeff, we're going to get right to it off the rip. I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic for the Mets, so I'm kind of jumping on board with everybody else. Biggest strengths to this Mets team, I think we all agree the starting pitching is a huge strength. For me also, I like the outfield. If it stays healthy, I love Wani Baseball, Juan Lagares. I think Curtis Granderson can still play. And I might be in the minority, but I like the Michael Conforto signing. What do you think some strengths of the team are?
Well, I think you hit the two big ones. The starting pitching is going to be the thing that carries this team if they make the playoffs this year. They go 6 deep at this point with established major league starters. Yes, you have Matt Harvey coming off Tommy John surgery, and that's going to be something to monitor. But if he even comes back at 75% this year at least of what he showed you pre-surgery, combine that with Zach Wheeler and Jacob deGrom, along with Bartolo Colon and John Neese, and Dylan G is your 6th starter swing man in case someone gets hurt, which, you're going to use more than 5 starters. Yeah, I can't have any huge arguments with that. And if worse comes to worse, Rafael Montero has made starts in the majors before. Noah Syndergaard could be ready as soon as May 1st. Look, it's going to be a lot of 2-1, 1-0, 3-2 wins, but if we're sitting here having a conversation September 15th and they're in a playoff spot, it's because this starting rotation did its job.
Weaknesses of this team. For me, I'm looking at the offense, as you just alluded to, and the bullpen. Now, a lot of Met fans, a lot of my friends who are Met fans tell me that they think the bullpen is a strength. There's some kind of unsung heroes down there. Familia, Henry Mejia had a good year last year in the closer's role. What do you think of the Mets bullpen?
I think it's potentially good. I do think your friends might be a little overly optimistic for my taste. The one thing to keep in mind with this bullpen is there's no real big strikeout guy. Your best pitchers in the pen last year, Jair Familia, Henry Mejia, both of whom I like and have followed as prospects for years. They don't get a ton of strikeouts. They're not dominant relievers. Familia, yeah, he strikes guys out. He's a little wild. Lefties hit him pretty hard last year. Mejia, can he get through a full season healthy? He started off in the starting rotation last year, of course, got sent to the bullpen, and pitched pretty well as closer, but had hernia surgery at the end of the year, and he's never really gotten through a full season healthy. And really past those two guys, it's a lot of question marks. Vic Black, who was very good last year, has issues throwing strikes. Josh Edgin, if you remember, was one of the first cuts out of spring last year because the velocity just wasn't there. He got it back and pitched well for 20 innings at the end of 2014. Can he continue that into 2015? I don't know. Is Carlos Torres' right arm finally going to be defeated by Terry Collins' usage pattern? Maybe. And then past that, there's a lot of question marks. Who's going to be the second lefty in the pen? Is Dylan G, if he's pitching out of the pen, going to be an effective reliever? So are they potentially better than they've been the last few years? Yes, but given how bad the bullpen has been, that's not a huge bar to get over.
Dylan G going to be the swing man, as you alluded to, in the bullpen. The Mets' surplus of starting pitching, is it good or bad? Is it good to have, these 6 established major league pitchers, or did they miss the boat by not trading one of them for a bat and also potentially blocking these great prospects they have? Montero, Syndergaard, Steven Matz. These guys now, they're blocked getting to the majors, at least in the immediate future.
I feel like every spring we talk about the Mets starting pitching surplus. At least the last few springs, they've had 5 or 6 established starters, some veterans in camp, some prospect potential. And every year it seems like Daisuke Matsuzaka ends up making starts for this team. So more depth is probably better than less depth. But you're right. And we say, these are the kind of things you say in spring training, it'll sort itself out. Someone will get hurt. Someone will be ineffective, or they'll make a trade. Maybe it'll be an Ike Davis type situation where Dylan G spends a couple weeks on the major league roster as a swingman. Maybe he makes a spot start. And then perhaps when Bobby Parnell is looking to come back from his Tommy John surgery, they're targeting, I think, end of April, early May. Maybe then your hand is kind of forced a little more, and you have to deal somebody, whether it's G or someone else. I think it'll probably be Dylan G in the end. But if a guy like Noah Syndergaard or Steven Matz, to get sort of the meat of the question, if they're shoving in Las Vegas in May, they're going to beat a path of the majors. They found a way to get Jacob deGrom innings last year. They found a way to get Rafael Montero innings last year. If Matz and Syndergaard look like the 4th, 3rd, even potentially second best pitchers in the starting rotation at some point in 2015, the Mets will find a way to get him innings. So I'm not worried about the depth blocking them, and I'm not super worried about the depth interfering with prospect development or being an issue in terms of just who throws how many starts this year.
I love Jacob deGrom. And Jeff, I'm a diehard Mariners fan. I think it's well established by people that listen to this podcast frequently. I'm used to, and I think you guys are in for it as well, the 2-1, 3-2 game. You're waiting on the big hit every game. You're on pins and needles, and you're constantly frustrated or just relieved when the game ends. I think the Mets are heading in that direction. Where is the offense going to come from?
Well, you're banking on a couple of things happening this year. Sort of your table stakes for a good 2015 Mets season is David Wright has to hit a little bit more like 2012 and 2013 David Wright. Curtis Granderson has to be a little bit better than he was last year. Both those guys have to be healthy. Michael Kadire has to be healthy, especially. And like you, I didn't mind the Kadire signing when it happened. They needed another right-handed bat. They needed another corner outfielder. Kadire fits that bill. The contract itself wasn't bad. I know that losing the first-round pick this year is, for a team that's trying to build through their system, it's going to be a bit of a blow. But by itself, the Kadire signing was a good one. And I think he will hit, obviously not as much as he did at Coors Field, but for a guy, I think he had around 770, 780 OPS as a Rocky away from Coors Field. That's a big upgrade on what the Mets were running out there in a corner last year. Travis d'Arnaud. Can Travis d'Arnaud hit like second half Travis d'Arnaud? When he came back from his stint in Vegas, he struggled obviously in the first half last year. He hit like a guy that looked like 260, 270 hitter with 20 home runs. That's pretty good from your catching position. Daniel Murphy, you can probably pencil him in for his usual Daniel Murphy season. What you're really looking for is, on the corners, can the corner bats come through? Is Lucas Duda legitimately a 30 home run hitter in the majors? Is David Wright healthy? And is David Wright again? But all that said, it's going to be a lot of 3-2 games.
How much happier are Met fans with Wilmer Flores and Ruben Tejada?
It depends on who you ask, to be honest. The Mets don't do this more than other teams, but they definitely, when you're developing prospects, you want to keep them in the most valuable major league spot or potential major league spot as long as possible. You want your starting pitchers to stay starting pitchers until they have to move to the bullpen. They certainly did that with guys like Familia and Mejia. You want your guys up the middle, your shortstops, your center fielders to stay up the middle as long as possible. And they're going to keep Brandon Nimmo as a center fielder as long as they can. They're going to keep guys like Matt Reynolds, a shortstop, as long as they can. Ahmed Rosario and Gavin Cecchini even lower in the minors. You want those guys playing in the most valuable position. They moved Wilmer Flores off shortstop in St. Lucie. So that's not necessarily a great sign from them internally about how they view him as a shortstop. But when it comes down to it, Ruben Tejada did not develop or even just sort of consolidate the gains we saw from him in the major league level in 2011 and 2012. So this is the situation the team is in. Wilmer Flores, all told, is probably their best overall shortstop option if he hits. And he showed you some signs. It's September. You don't want to go crazy about September numbers. Guys have one foot on the bus. See a lot of expanded rosters, guys that aren't really going to be major leaguers going forward. But he did hit a little bit, and he's hit in the upper minors, certainly. Had a good season in Binghamton, good seasons, half seasons in Vegas the last 2 years. But he's not a good defensive shortstop. But if he hits 270 with 15 home runs, no one's going to care. We'll just have to see if he can do it.
We'll get you out of here on this. I saw him play last year with the Cyclones. The Mets don't have great outfield depth, although I do like their outfield. Are we years away from Michael Conforto getting to the big leagues, or are we a little closer on that timeline?
Conforto was drafted with the idea that he'd be one of the fastest moving players in that draft, one of the quickest to the majors. The problem, I think, with one of the reasons you saw him in Brooklyn last year is because the Mets like to send that type of player to Brooklyn. They sent Gavin Cecchini there during his first full professional season. The same with Brandon Nimmo. Those are prep picks versus college picks, so it's going to be a little different. But if they had been a little more aggressive with him, like say the way the Cubs were with Kyle Schwarber, a guy that maybe he starts in Brooklyn, he hits there for a couple of weeks, you get him to Savannah or St. Lucie for 75 to 100 plate appearances at the end of in August, the end of the summer. Then if he hits there, you can justify starting him in Double-A this year. Now, what's more likely going to happen is he starts in St. Lucie, does a full half season there, because that's what the Mets organization front office has always done. Guys get a full half season in the A-ball levels. And he gets to Binghamton for the second half, is assuming he hits, but I think he will. Very polished college bat. So you're probably looking at the earliest where early 2016, middle of 2016. Now, could he have gotten there by September or August if they'd been a little more aggressive with him? Maybe. It's tough to say. I would have liked to see them try that. But one way or the other, you're going to see Michael Conforto, if all goes well, if he stays healthy, and he hits, I think, in Queens sometime in 2016.
Jeff Paternostro, Amazin Avenue. Find him on Twitter, at Amazin Avenue, one of the best SB Nation blogs out there. All your Mets news, all your Mets updates there. Again, find him on Twitter. Jeff, thanks for being with us. Hopefully we're talking to you throughout the summer.
Thanks again. Anytime.